ways how to evaluate function based on graph. So we have a graph here. Let's say this is the graph. We can label it as f of x. But at the same time, what we mean is a y, f of x equivalent to y. So if I want you to find f of -1, so we don't have expression. How do we find f of -1? And that what does f of -1 means is find the value of y when x equals -1 on your graph. Okay, so then on your graph, we're looking for -1. Okay, right here is -1. And we try to figure out a point on the graph. So we see that at -1, when x equals -1, we found a point on the graph, which is the green point. And how do we figure out a y value from there? We try to match it up with the y value or with the y-axis. So what we get is also -1 here. So I go back here, I have f of -1 equals -1. So what this really means is when x equals -1, your y value is also equal to -1 on the graph. Alright. Okay, let's try another one. Let me erase this first. Okay, next let's try f of 1. So what does it mean? What does f of 1 mean? That means find y value when x equals 1. So now I'll look for, on the graph, I look for x equals 1. So x equals 1 is right here. X equals 1 is right here. So I try to figure out the point on the graph when x is 1. So now I found this green point right here. Oops, sorry. Okay, so I found this green point right here. And then now I try to match that green point to the y-axis to find out what is the y value of this point. And it's also -1. So go back here, I have f of 1 equals to -1. And what does it mean is when x equals 1, your y value equals -1. Alright. Okay, let's try another graph. You can have these right here. Okay, so let's try to find out f of 4. And if you still remember, the meaning of f of 4 means find the value of y when x equals 4. So now on the x-axis, I'm looking for 4. 4 is right here. And then I try to figure out the point on the graph when x equals 4. And I got the yellow point here. So now from that yellow point, I will figure out the y value by match it to the y-axis. And I got 2. So I go back here, I put down f of 4 equals 2. And what does it mean is when x equals 4, y equals 2. Okay, just do a quick practice to see if you got it. Go ahead and find f of -4. Okay, give you time to work on it. Or you can pause until you figure out your answer and continue on playing this video. So f of -4 equals, the answer is -2. Hopefully you got it right. And how is it? How is it equals to -2? So f of -4 means we're looking for -4. And this, the point, yellow point right here on the graph. And from that yellow point, we figured out the y value, which is -2. Okay? Alright, next, how about f of 0? And the answer for f of 0 is 0. Alright, hopefully this lesson helped you understand how to find or how to evaluate function based on graph.